Welcome back to GTD. It is finally back. We're back. I know it's been a long, maybe 5 days? I think 4 days since
Yeah,
we last
4 days.
video. But we're back. It's probably a Monday again since we're recording on Sunday night right after the race so we can get the review up earlier. And that is the review of Nashville, the concrete oval in the middle of Tennessee that I think is going to get mixed results after the race we just watched. A lot of strategy. I mean, it's a very strategy forward race. Not a lot of passing and a lot of, tight, close racing. There were some spots here and there, but over the course of the race, it was kind of lackluster. What are your initial thoughts after watching Nashville?
My initial thought is please add some progressive banking. And I think the track is good. I think the track it's been hit or miss so far. You had the craziness of last year, you had good racing, and I think if you're going to commit to the next gen car, you need a little bit of progressive banking. And I don't think that's really the track's fault. Because you watch Xfinity here, I don't know if you watched the Xfinity race this week, but cars were able to run like that half lane down. Like the half lane where you saw Denny Hamlin do it to Chase Briscoe, where he kind of blocked and Briscoe shot up the track. With the Xfinity cars, that didn't really happen. They were able to hang, pack air, and actually race back and forth. So I think that shows this track can be good in its current form, but you might have to make the cars race a little bit differently. But if you're going to have them set up like this, you're going to need to have at least a little bit of progressive banking, I think, to make the outside a viable option. I mean, look at a Bristol or a Dover, the other really two big concrete tracks we race on. There's high banks at those places. It helps you make that traction on the outside because with the way the rubber pickup and put down works at these concrete tracks, you're not going to be able to have that groove fill in and work as easily as you would with normal asphalt.
Yeah, we've also seen them experiment with PJ1 or some other compounds that they put on the track. Do you think something like that in the turns, maybe up high, try to get some grip up high, or even just right on the bottom, like paint the yellow with some of that PJ1? You think that would help?
I think that's if you want to go for like a temporary fix, I could see them trying to do that. I wouldn't hate it. At least see what happens. Maybe throw it up there for the truck race because that's a little bit more comparable. Just kind of see how it works out. But overall, I think it's a little bit too reactionary to go, oh, Nashville, it's this horrible racing, because I still think it's good. You can get
Right.
behind cars. If you can work to their quarter panel, you can make passes. It's not like we're talking about New Hampshire or anything like classic, that kind of racing. But you can get to guys' quarter panels. You can have good racing. So I think Nashville, only been here for 5 years now. It's only the fifth race at Nashville. So a few more years, I think this track definitely deserves more chances. I like the product that we've seen from it overall. So still on the Nashville train, I think. But let's talk about the actual racing. What happened? Ryan Blaney finally gets that first win this year. Has struggled with all the blown motors, a ton of speed, some off weeks. Last week in Charlotte had the rough crash after finally breaking into the top 10. Just you could hear the relief in his voice in that post-race interview saying, we've had speed. We know we have it. This team finally just put it all together, got the win. What do you think it means for this 12 team?
It means a lot. And I think if you're looking at, teams and especially drivers across the board, if there's one guy who you don't want to get hot and seems to be the most momentum heavy, and when he gets going, he's like a freight train and he's just not stopping, it's Ryan Blaney. And we've seen this, I think, the last 2 consecutive years, almost identical. Decent start to the year, okay start to the year, a string of bad luck maybe not the greatest finishes. And then in the summer, he just gets hot. This is how he won the championship 2 years ago. He just gets hot and stays hot. He did it last year, didn't win a championship, but still won a string of races over the course of the summer going into August and September. So, especially with the speed Penske's already had this season, look out. It's going to be fun for Blaney.
Yeah, I think that's the real difference is I would say Ryan Blaney's having a similar year pace-wise the last two, but the rest of Penske's been so much stronger at the start of the season this year. I think it's put a little bit more pressure on Blaney to get that win, and now that he has it, I mean, Penske has speed week in, week out. Austin Cindric was in and out of the top 10 tonight. Josh Berry flirted with it at some points, and Logano was obviously top 5 all night. So that organization definitely has speed right now. So we'll have to see what Penske can do the rest of the summer. But another couple guys who have had a strong start to the summer so far are just purely based on speed. Carson Hocevar and William Byron. Byron has brought top 5 cars back-to-back weeks, had the class of the field at Charlotte for most of the night before the last 50 laps or so. And then Carson Hocevar was right in the top 3 before his engine blew up at Charlotte and then came home second tonight. Appeared to be chasing down Ryan Blaney towards the end before lap traffic kind of got in the way. That kind of stalemated. But those two guys, I think, are loving the summer heat right now, really getting off to a hot start.
Yeah, I'll start with William Byron just because I feel like what I'm about to talk about fits the race we just watched a little more. If you had to pick a crew chief to go like, hey, this is the next young driver who's going to be the greatest star. Let's get the best crew chief with him. I think Rudy Fugle is the best crew chief in NASCAR right now. And watching Nashville was kind of a race that I thought William Byron would win just because of his crew chief. He's always the one. He's the first one to react to something. He's like the first one to try something new. And most time when he tries something new, it works and sticks. And he's always going off the beat, but not so much off the beat to where it's like, what are we doing? He's always like very just like a nudge too far than what other guys do. And it works for him. You've seen William Byron steal a lot of wins just from his slightly different strategy on pit road. And in a race like Nashville, when the pit window is so wide, you're thinking, okay, maybe William Byron can do this. But it was Ryan Blaney. He was the one that had that just different enough strategy in stage one just to stay out as long as possible and then not pit when the stage ended. And then, we saw what happened. He ended up winning the race. But I think just because William Byron has Rudy Fugle to kind of, talk, and he's going to be with him, all year, I think you're going to see a lot of speed out of this car because they have it. And I think, I don't know if I said this on the show yet, but he's my number one crew chief in the sport right now.
That's definitely fair. I think I'd still put Cliff Daniels up there just because of his ability to calm down his driver in the midst of a race, which isn't something I've seen a ton from Fugle. Although to be fair, Byron really never has those issues like other drivers, so maybe we just haven't needed to see it. But I think Daniels, Fugle, and then Jonathan Hassler are right up there for 3 of my top 5 right now. And these crew chiefs a lot of times end up going under the radar, and they are a huge part of this team. You see the different approaches. You mentioned the aggressiveness of Rudy Fugle. Cliff Daniels, kind of that slow, methodical. We'll get there when we get there. You saw it with the rebound run for Kyle Larson tonight, and then Jonathan Hassler for Blaney is kind of the, okay, we know what you're good at. We're going to set up the car to be really good at what you're good at, and we're going to maximize it that way. So the different approaches there. But Carson Hocevar as well, briefly mentioned him a couple minutes ago. The speed of this young kid right now is just otherworldly. I think for a kid of his age to be up there, because we've seen these young guys that come into NASCAR, look at a Ty Gibbs or Riley Herbst. Those younger guys are just frankly nowhere close to what Hocevar is doing. And Hocevar, you would argue, is in the worst equipment of those three between 2311 and Gibbs. So what have you seen from Carson over the last couple of weeks? And do you think he can make the playoffs and build on this as the year goes on?
I think the only thing that comes to mind right now is when someone mentions Carson Hocevar is kind of what Dale Jr. said about Atlanta when we first had that really good race at the new Atlanta. That Atlanta is the hottest ticket in NASCAR. Carson Hocevar is the hottest ticket in NASCAR. He's the guy to watch. I mean, they mentioned on the broadcast last week and this week, they need a Carson Hocevar camera. He is the most fun driver to watch. He's also just one of the most fun personalities in the sport. He does the Twitch streaming on iRacing. I think he's played some other games too, but he's out there. He's always doing commercials. He's active on social media. He is the young star that's going to help build this sport, especially with the streaming era and Amazon Prime and HBO. We'll see later in the year. He's a really talented driver. Now, he's going to get a lot of flack after Nashville because we know what happened. He got underneath Ricky Stenhouse, put him in the wall. So we'll see kind of how not only the media, but the fans, really, I think the fans are more important than the media, how they respond and react to, I think they're going to be divisive. I think after kind of what we've seen him do at the Coke 600, I think they're going to be more in favor of Hocevar. Young, aggressive, made a mistake. You see Kyle Larson do it all the time, I think they're going to be more on that side than after Atlanta when they're all like, this kid needs to chill out, slow down. What are we doing?
Yeah, I think that it really has a lot to do with the fact that Spire now has the speed where Hocevar is up there. And it's not just, oh, this young kid had a fast car for once and he just ruined his day and someone else's. Okay, this is a guy that's up in the top 10 consistently, and he's aggressive and he wants to get what he can get when he can get it. And I think that's going to be received better by fans than kind of that underdog who always gets up there and then wrecks. And you mentioned the Hocevar in-car camera. As soon as he was on the outside, you could see him waving his hand just out the window net at Austin Dillon. And all the broadcast crew was like, oh, he's waving the 3 by. I'm like, I guarantee you he's not waving the 3 by because he just passed the 3. And then sure enough, lap later on the backstretch, you see him give him the 1-finger salute out the windshield. And that just is his personality. Whether a lot of fans like it or don't like it, that is what you're going to get from Carson Hocevar on a week-to-week basis. And you're also going to get a ton of raw speed. So definitely one of the most intriguing young prospects in NASCAR right now. But another is Corey Heim, who made a start for 23:11 tonight and was running 13th before, let's be honest, kind of clearing himself off the front of Brad Keselowski. But still, the 67 showed speed. At the time he wrecked, he was actually the highest running 23:11 car in the race. I know 2 of his teammates finished top 10 with Wallace and Reddick on recovery drives, but still, how is this guy not in the car that Riley Herbst is in right now?
I was about to say the exact same thing. If you were to go about talking about that and not mention Riley Herbst, the first words in my mouth were, "You better pack your bags."
Let me tell you, I'm
or
always going to mention Riley Herbst.
Oh well, the broadcast certainly doesn't. So somebody's got to.
Well, we got to protect the young kids, even if they're awful and running 35th every week in top 5 of top 10 equipment.
See, that made sense 20 years ago when the sport needed young kids. The sport is young kids now. I mean, how many times do they mention aged in the broadcast now?
Also, people act like Riley Herbst didn't run like 5 seasons in Xfinity and do nothing the entire time. He won 1 race at Indianapolis, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, he's good now. He's really not. He's always been off the pace. He's never been the fastest guy in his own team. I don't know. I mean, obviously the Monster Energy money is there, but other than that, what reason could you possibly have to promote him over a Corey Heim? It's got to be just money.
Yeah, I don't want to go down this whole rabbit hole because this could be a whole hour-long conversation between us. But we both know NASCAR and racing in general is just whoever brings in the money and brings in the sponsorships. And Corey Heim just isn't that guy yet. He's a humble, working his way through the ranks. He's getting there. He will be that guy soon, and he will be in a seat very soon, hopefully. If not Cup, Xfinity, I'm sure. If there's not already something out there that I don't know about, but he'll move his way up soon. We don't have to get into the whole money talk. But. Yeah, great speed. It sucks that he just. I mean, this is his 5th or 6th Cup start. He has very little
4th.
experience. Yeah, very little experience. I mean, that's just a young mistake. He'll clean that up. He'll be fine.
He'll figure it out. But his Toyota teammates had some great drives today. We mentioned Bubba Wallace briefly earlier. Had the penalty on pit road, and at that point, I was like, oh, he's done. It's Nashville. You can't come back from that. And proceeded to say, I really don't care what you think I can or can't come back from, and finished 6th. And coming off 3 consecutive finishes of 30th or worse, I can't think of a guy who really needed that more than Bubba Wallace at this point. Kind of stabilizes his position above the cut line now. Gained 2 spots in points, got above Chase Briscoe, got above Alex Bowman in points, now sits top 10 in the point standings. Great bounce back for Bubba Wallace this week. And then Eric Jones, the Legacy Motor Club speed just remains in these cars. Ran top 10 all day, ran top 5 for most of the day, came home 7th. Great run for Eric Jones as well tonight.
Yeah, and every time, you looked at Eric Jones, he was in the middle of something. I mean, there was one time he was about to pass Joey Logano, and I think Joey Logano would have gone down pit lane. If Eric Jones would have gone down pit lane, Joey Logano would have followed him just to block him from going to pit lane. I was like, woof, what are we doing? But that's a Joey Logano.
What is Joey Logano?
Yeah. But yeah, he was always in the mix. I mean, he had the car. He could make multiple grooves work if he needed to. I mean, Legacy, we've said it probably for a month now. Their speed is kind of here. Now, it differs.
It's the Jimmy Johnson effect.
Oh, 100%, because he ran so well.
No, it's because he owns the team.
Yeah. No, but it kind of differs from week to week. Like 1 week, Eric Jones will be that guy, and then it'll be Nemechek. And it's kind of just like
Nemechek was nowhere today, though.
That's what I'm saying. It seems like it's one of the 2 cars. When are we going to get both cars kind of in the top 10, like running together like a
They
real
were at Texas,
team?
to be fair.
That is true. But I think it's good stuff. I like we said, they switched manufacturers. It was a big deal. They had a lot to work with. They're not really have the connections and everything that all the other, TRD or Gazoo now have. So, I mean, they'll get there, and I think the speed will come. And having a guy like Jimmy Johnson in like leading your team and the NASCAR legend he is, he's not going to keep losing, right? He's going to figure stuff out, and he's
I hope not. I've seen enough of it the last 7 years.
Yeah. But hopefully, I'm sure in the back of his head, there's still that 7-time championship winner, so.
Yeah, hopefully. But a couple more guys I wanted to talk about here before we get into our predictions from the previous week that we had for this race. Christopher Bell was backwards in the wall, still ended up 10th. Great bounce back for the 20 crew. Yep. Kyle Larson was awful to start this race, just flat out slow. Had the issue, went back to the back of the pack, almost went a lap down. Cliff Daniels adjusted on that car all day. Yeah, great masterclass from Cliff Daniels today, I think. Kyle Larson finishes 8th in that disaster of a car. Kyle Busch came home 12th, solid run for him. Zane Smith coming home 13th, ran top 10 a good portion of the day. And then let's get into our picks now, because it was a rough day for the Chase and Chase duo that we predicted to win this week. I went with Chase Briscoe, who was the pole sitter. So I was like, oh my goodness, he's going to have speed.
Yeah.
He was the pole sitter last weekend, finished top 5. We're running it back. And he proceeded to lead most of stage 1 and then just disappear. As soon as he got back in traffic off of pit road, that car just clearly did not work anymore. I think it's still a little bit of, I don't love James Small as a crew chief, to be honest. I think he struggles to make these mid-race adjustments. You see the 19 often fall behind. I think part of the reason they were able to come back at the Coke 600 is because they had that extra 100 laps, 100 miles or so to make that adjustment to the buffer that he normally misses with. And tonight you just didn't have that kind of time. They couldn't adjust on the car. He ends up 17th. And then tell us about your Chase here.
Yeah. So I had the other one, Chase Elliott, and it started out as a decent day. I had decent qualifying speed, right? Was running in the top 10, mixing up in the top 5 for a lot, mostly stage 1. I think he finished 6th in stage 1. And then stage 2, for the first 2 out of the 7 restarts we had right there, was still in the mix running it. And William Byron was really making that high side work every restart, and he did, and it was working for him. And behind him every time on restarts was Chase Elliott. So Elliott saw that and was like, all right, let's see what this car's got on the high side on restarts. And I feel so bad for him because me and you have given him flack about not being aggressive on restarts, which is where you make your money. And one time he tries to be aggressive and he pulls up trying to pass everybody. And
Christopher Bell spins out.
There's a yellow number 20 car spinning out in front of him. So he's just like, oh, he tries to be aggressive, and that's what he gets. So he's not going to be aggressive for like the next 7 years now.
Yeah, and then Alan Gustafson's sitting there on the pit box like, how can I make a conservative pit call happen out of this?
Yeah, and then he just, once he got out of the top 10, just like Chase Briscoe, it was game over. He's finished top 15. He is still like the top 15 guy. So, I mean,
at some point, we can't really hate on him. I feel like we've said this all year. He's not fast, but he's 5th in points. And you can't really hate on that, I guess.
Yeah.
But onto our dark horse picks now. I went Zane Smith, like I mentioned earlier, ran top 10 for a good bit of the day, especially in stage 2. Ended up 13th. I think that's solid. And then yours was absolutely cursed because I thought for sure this guy was a shoe-in for a top 10, and then bad things occurred.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not sure. I want more information on this one. I'm not really sure what happened. Do you know of someone else getting their hard card confiscated for a race or for a car adjustment? Like,
all I can think of is that NASCAR really did not approve whatever they did to that spoiler, more so than just a normal penalty. And if you guys don't know who we're talking about, by the way, it's AJ Allmendinger. AJ Allmendinger had a penalty after made some unapproved adjustments on the spoiler, and NASCAR went, you're in the credential line the rest of the season, and took away the... That's insane to me. That's very much like you've made us mad penalty.
Did he put a Forza wing on it? I don't
know.
I have no idea what they tried to do. There's only so much you can do with an NASCAR spoiler. I mean, it's a little piece of like plastic that's like sits like this. So
you think they adjusted like the wings they have above the spoiler on the side? You think they adjusted those? I don't know.
I'm sure Bob Pockrass or Bianchi, one of those guys will get into it and they'll figure it out. We'll have a whole video come Tuesday or Wednesday. Like, here's the normal spoiler. Here's their spoiler. Like,
see how it's different. This one little pixel right here.
Yeah, but I hope it justifies the penalty he got, because I mean,
hilarious penalty, by the way.
Yeah, the pass through on pit road. I mean, the hard card is a big seller. Like, you're reading it's like a list of penalties. You're reading it. It's like point deduction. Or I don't know. I don't even think he got points. It was just crew chief ejected.
No, it's just the stop and go.
Pass through and hard card is gone.
Yeah, it's like, whatever. Okay, that makes sense. The stop and go is a bit harsh. They must not have liked it. Oh, he's waiting in the credential line the rest of the year. They really did not like whatever they did to this car. That's one of the funniest penalties I've ever seen. But tough break for AJ Allmendinger.
What if they start revoking like Amazon Prime memberships from people? Like, Prime membership's gone. Like,
your family is not allowed to have Amazon Prime anymore.
Yeah, no more overnight shipping for you, dog. You're paying the standard rate.
You mentioned last week one of your things with the Prime broadcast was, the leaderboard changes too fast. Can you read? That was not fast at all. Are you okay?
No, I swear they slowed it down. As soon as the race started, I was like, all right, let's do it. They slowed it down, and there weren't as many ads on it. So I think,
Yeah, I was like, both of the things you talked
Yeah.
about, I'm like, I didn't see any of those.
Yeah. So how did you feel about the broadcast since it is your first
It was
time,
great. I loved
watching
it. The color mixing is incredible. Audio mixing is great. It looks incredible. It looks like how a NASCAR broadcast should look. I could actually hear the cars, which was nice. It's not
Yeah,
something I've been able to do a lot this year. I loved it.
I will say the Coke 600. I know it's a bigger event and it was their first race. The Coke 600 was. I mean, they had a helicopter in the air, so they can get some really cool shots of the helicopter. So that made a difference. But the audio mixing in the Coke 600 was phenomenal. It's probably the environment with the tall glass buildings and more stands and things around it. But the audio was great. But it was still a really good broadcast. I think the only thing me and you have this week is waiting a long time for post. I mean, we were recording. I have my TV still on. We were recording when Carson Hocevar spoke. I mean, it was probably
we were waiting on the Hocevar interview because we wanted to hear what he said, and then he just goes kind of like, things happened, and I was like, okay,
yeah. But I think I love Amazon Prime. I can't wait for HBO because I think they're a lot of the same. I know Dale Jr. is like a head producer in both, so this should be fine.
Yeah, but it should be a good time. Amazon Prime knocked out of the park once again. Congratulations, Amazon Prime. You keep killing it. But that is it for our NASCAR review this week. If you want to check out baseball or F1, those are coming out later this week on the channel, as well as our preview for Michigan next weekend. But thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see y'all later in the week.